Hello, Fri12Aug, World News. Financial Times. Joseph Stiglitz writes an article entitled How to Make the Best of the Long Malaise, and from it I highlight some lines in which he writes, "The breaking of the bubble has left a legacy of excess leverage and real estate." We can understand that. The bubble has burst and there is too much debt overhanging out there. Consumption will therefore remain weak. Understood. Austerity on both sides of the Atlantic now ensures that the state will not fill the void. Austerity, states will not do any more Keynesian stimulusing. We understand. Given this, it is not surprising that companies are unwilling to invest, even those that can get access to capital. Nick says, naughty. Because to say that companies are unwilling to invest because governments are unwilling to fill the void is not quite right, is it? Because governments did try coming in and filling the void and companies still did not invest. Moving on. Corporations are awash with cash. Oh yes, they are, on the other side of the Atlantic, certainly. But the banks have not been lending to the small and medium-sized enterprises that are, in any economy, the source of job creation. Quite right, certainly in the United States, even in Europe. New, small and medium businesses are the generators of new jobs. Big companies are not. Corporations are awash with cash, but the banks have not been lending to the small and medium-sized enterprises. We ask, have the small and medium-sized enterprises been asking for it? And leave it there. The Fed and Treasury have failed miserably in getting this lending restarted. They've tried quite hard in the UK. It's called Operation Merlin, I think. But the real answer, at least for countries such as the US, that can borrow at low rates, is simple. Use the money to make high return investments. The UK can also borrow at low rates now. So they've got the real answer, that they should use this money to make high return investments that the banks don't know about, the small and medium enterprises don't know about, and the corporations don't know about. But the government can find those high return investments. When the recession began, there were many wise words about having learnt the lessons of both the Great Depression and Japan's long malaise. Now we know we didn't learn anything. Our stimulus was too weak, too short, and not well designed. The banks weren't forced to return to lending. Well, that's one side of the picture, isn't it? The Keynesians were always accused that whatever the stimulus was, it would always be too weak, too short, and not well designed when it didn't work. And the banks, they're not lending. Why? Because they're not being forced to lend by the government. The writer is a recipient of the 2001 Nobel Prize in Economics and professor at Columbia University. Moving on. Size of government. Figures from the OECD. Public spending as a percentage of GDP. This is 2009. At the top of the pyramid, as in small, public spending as a percentage of GDP, Korea, Switzerland and Australia. Slovak Republic and then the United States. Very small percentage of public spending as a percentage of GDP by the government. Japan, small. New Zealand, Luxembourg, Canada, Poland, Norway, Ireland, Czech Republic, Spain and Germany. Starting to get up there. Now we're into the half of public spending is GDP for these countries. Netherlands, Greece, Hungary, Portugal, Italy, United Kingdom, Austria, Belgium. Are they all European? Yeah, I think they are. France, Iceland, Finland, Sweden, and Denmark. Denmark at 58% of GDP is government spending. All that top lot are European. So are the ones at the top Korea, Switzerland, Australia, Slovak Republic, United States, Japan, New Zealand going to try and be like the Europeans? Maybe, maybe not. China's economy is headed for a slowdown. Beijing's export-orientated strategy can't continue forever. And this is by Michael Pettis. You need subscriber access to read this article, but all you need really is that Michael Pettis has written it, and the heading is China's economy is headed for a slowdown. As China fitfully tries to rebalance its economy, a small but rising number of Chinese economists are beginning to predict a sharply lower annual growth rate of 6 or 7% over the next few years, but arithmetic of adjustment suggests growth is likely to be even lower, perhaps half that level. If Pettis says it, it's not going necessarily right, but I think he is respected as the divine authority on China. China has had all these savings made off the backs of the Chinese workers, and all that money, that now trillions of dollars, has been lent to the United States and Europe and a few other places. Will he ever get it back? Bloomberg, vote on new Japan Prime Minister nears as Kan meets budget goal. Japan's Democratic Party may hold leadership vote by the end of the month after opposition parties agreed to back legislation to finance this year's budget, a condition set by Prime Minister Naoto Kan for resigning. So that'll be another Prime Minister in Japan, I think the 6th in 5 years or 5th in 6 years. Turning them over, big budget to obviously rebuild the country. Japan has huge investments in other countries, primarily in the United States. They'll soon need that money back. Will they get it? Europe, Merkel faces revolt over Eurozone deal. Battle lines are being rapidly drawn up in the German Bundestag for what promises to be a bruising debate over the crisis measures to stabilise debt markets in the Eurozone. Germany has, with its exports, made a lot of money and invested that money in European government debt, like Greece and Portugal and Ireland and Spain and Italy, and into the banks of Europe that have lent money to housing booms and busts in places like Spain and Ireland. Will they get their money back? Interesting. At the end of this article, Ms. Merkel insists that she will deliver her majority in favour of the deal. That's lending more money to Greece in this occasion and boosting the size of the EFSF. If more than 21 supporters refuse to back the deal, she would be forced to rely on the opposition SPD and Greens. Oh no, will she get their votes? Both of whom are in favour. Yes, she would get their votes. That would ensure German approval for the Eurozone reform package, but it would be politically devastating for the Chancellor not to be able to count on majority support from her own ranks, and could cause the government to fall. Katung. Now this is the thing. I've been reading about this just for, I don't know, a couple of years or something, and I can't get it into my mind it being right. Sigmar Gabriel, SPD chairman, that, you know, if she didn't get her own votes, she'd have to rely on the SPD or Green vote, on Tuesday promised his party's support once again and argued that the German government should go further and allow Eurozone bonds to be introduced, ensuring easier borrowing for the most debt-strapped Eurozone member states. It's actually Merkel, who's a Europhile but not as nearly Europhile, as in pro-Euro, as the opposition, the SPD and the Greens. So if they get rid of Merkel, all they'll have to represent them, the German people, are more politicians, even keener to use the German money to bail out the investments they've made in other countries in Europe who now need more investment making in them. And will they ever get their money back? But it's queer, isn't it, that the politicians of Germany seemingly don't represent the consensus opinion of the German people. And if you want to know about the German people and their quirks, Michael Lewis has written a spankingly good article in Vanity Fair. It's 17 pages long. They're not big pages, but it's a paragraph of a chapter of a book length. It's a wonderful article. Michael Lewis is a writing hero of mine. I think he writes beautifully about things. And there's your headline. It's the economy, Dummkopf, which kind of shows Michael Lewis in action. He's just a clever fellow. With Greece and Ireland in economic shreds, while Portugal, Spain and perhaps even Italy head south, only one nation can save Europe from financial Armageddon, a highly reluctant Germany. German people are reluctant, but not the politicians, as noted. The ironies, like the fact that bankers from Dusseldorf were the ultimate patsies in Wall Street's con game. Oh yes, I forgot. Not only did the Germans invest in the European investments that they made, they were also absolutely favourite for buying the subprime crap that Wall Street pumped out. Pile up quickly as Michael Lewis investigates German attitudes towards money, excrement, and the country's Nazi past, all of which help explain its peculiar new status. Well worth reading if you have any interest in Europe, especially Germany. Let's finish with this. This is from the BLS.gov in the United States. And it's urban units we want to look at. We can see there in US dollars 2002 to 2008. It's the only one I could find. 0.95, 107, 1.19, 1.3, 1.47, 1.83, 2.38. So going up very nicely there from 0.95 in 2002 to 2008, 2.38, over doubling. But what is over doubling, Nick? US dollars. So it's 2.3 US dollars. What are those? Hourly compensation per employee. Estimated hourly compensation costs of manufacturing employees in China 2002 to 2008. Estimated hourly compensation costs of manufacturing employees in China in US dollars 2002 was 95 cents, but now they're up to $2.38 in 2008, and I believe they're even up to $3 now. $3 an hour. And that is it. Who'll get their money back? Bye.